Hi, everyone. Welcome to Resolve to Live Forward. Welcome to a Friday, the first full Friday in the month of November of 2025. Hard to believe now that we have completed 10 months and we are actually now moving into the last 2 months of 2025. I have a story that I want to share with you. Let's go back to talking about the word resolve, the power word that was the impetus for the book that I published in 2023, Resolve, Your Blueprint for Intentional Success. And we'll talk about that word. I also want to talk about the history behind that word and when it actually came to be. And that's the reason why November is such an important month for me in terms of milestones in my life, that at the particular time that it happened, I did not realize how important it would be. But today, looking back, I realize it was a pivotal moment in my life, a watershed moment, and to a great degree, something of a miracle. But before we do that, I just wanted to let you know that Resolve to Live Forward, the podcast, is heard on a numerous group of podcast platforms. It is actually made available to those podcasting platforms, which include Spotify and the iTunes Store. But how that happens is that I have a podcast hosting platform, Buzzsprout. And Buzzsprout is my go-to platform. And if you're thinking about starting a podcast, here is a reminder. Some of the best ways that you can get your message out there and hopefully find the tribe, the audience, the niche, whatever you want to call it, but the people who want what you have to share with them and want to be a part of it, and want to look to you as someone that they can feel that they have a friend, an ally, a supporter, and someone that can be, in a sense, a voice for them. I recommend a hosting platform. Now, anyone can start a podcast. It's very simple to do. As a matter of fact, I have a presentation that I do in Toastmasters as a workshop where I show people that with 3 specific things, you can create a podcast, at least as far as recording one and having one physically available. But anyway, hosting platforms are amazing. And there are many excellent hosting platforms. I chose Buzzsprout. And Buzzsprout has not disappointed me because Buzzsprout not only makes sure that my podcast, barring any kind of unforeseen circumstance, is launched in a timely manner. It's supposed to be launched somewhere around 12 noon every Friday in the Eastern time zone. But having that platform not only ensures that I have a place to put my podcast both in video and audio form, but I have a place where it connects me to a number of podcast platforms that I can stream it on, including Spotify and the iTunes Store. But it also handles the analytics. And analytical information is important because you want to know if you're getting views, if you're getting downloads, if you're getting feedback. And it's a great way to track your success. And it also is a platform, as a hosting platform, that will hold you accountable. So I just want to remind you that's how we are here. My email address is johnmorrowcoaching@gmail.com. And again, you are either listening to or watching and listening to Resolve to Live Forward. Now let's talk about why this month, the month of November, is so important to me. I'm going to take us back to the year 2018. I'm going to talk about a time. Now, I've been a Toastmaster for many, many years. I was first introduced to Toastmasters, a public speaking organization. It's communications and leadership. It's 100% educational, totally not-for-profit. Its sole focus and goal is to equip people to overcome their fear of public speaking and also to develop the characteristics of great leadership skills. And tied to those great leadership skills are communication skills. It was Toastmasters that I was first introduced to in 1985, and I joined and was a member for a period of about 3.5 years. Then I had a break of about 3.5 years due to a job change. It conflicted with the time of the meeting that I was going to, but I found another club And also my job situation changed, and I transitioned into a job that was more suited to my schedule. And I found a club that met in the evenings. It was the Lakeland, Florida Toastmasters Club number 2262. I joined that club in 1993, and I've been a member of that club ever since. I've been a member of other clubs, multiple clubs, but this club has been my constant companion since 1993. And through the Toastmasters organization, I have been able to grow and to come to the place that I am today at the age of 75 as a professional speaker, as a podcaster, as an author, as a mindset coach, as a communications coach, and all of these things that I feel that I can do that are beneficial to help people depending upon the particular station in life that they are at. Now, let's go to the story of resolve. There was a meeting. I wouldn't be able to give you the date, but I do know who the speaker was. I know what the subject of the speech was, and I know that it was the impetus that led for me and my late wife Donna and I in finding our power word. And that power word, of course, is at the core of this presentation, at the core of all that I do, and everything that I do in my coaching, in my communications is built around this word, resolve. In a Toastmasters meeting in November of 2017, a fellow member of our club who was already an established women's leadership coach presented a 7-minute speech entitled, "How are those resolutions working for you?" And I thought to myself, well, she's speaking to me because during the course of the years that Donna and I had been married, and remembering that we had retired from working the classic 9-to-5 job back in 2013, ironically, interestingly for me, November of 2013. Here we are in November of 2017, and I was at the meeting. Donna was not in Toastmasters, although she was my biggest supporter and went to Toastmasters conferences and contests. She was almost always on my arm for those special events. I went home and I told Donna that we had been challenged by this speaker that if resolutions were not our thing, we just simply failed at them, maybe what we should do is we should stop doing resolutions and choose a power word. And I was very, very touched and moved by that. There's a term that doesn't get bandied around very much, but it comes from my background and having been raised in a evangelical deep south Christian church. I was convicted by it. And the conviction is not so much a sense of guilt as it is, you talk a good talk, but you've got to sometimes stop talking and start doing. Resolutions on the surface sound great, and there is a group of people out there that keep resolutions. I didn't. I was like the majority of people who move into a new year and we have a resolution to do 1, 2, 3. Some people write a whole list of resolutions. But by the time you get a month, 2, 3 months into the year, it's gone by the wayside. It happens. And that was the story of my life. So much so that actually I'd quit making resolutions. But we decided we would do differently for 2018. We would make a power word, one that we would share. And that's when we sat down and talked about power words, and we looked at a number of words. But what prompted us to choose resolve was that resolve was at the root of the word resolution. And we looked at the definitions of resolve and found the resolve definition that says one having a definite, firm plan of action. Resolve. I know exactly what it is. I have resolve because that's on my mind every day. I have a definite, firm plan of action. We chose then, this was not from the speech, but it was an idea that we agreed to do together. create the acronym for the word resolve using the 7 letters. And as you know, and if you've been following me, you know that the 7 behaviors that you live out on a day-by-day basis R for resilience, E for engagement, S for service, O for organization, L for lifelong learning, V for visionary mindset, and the last E being for an enthusiastic mindset. Those were the intentional behaviors, the definite, firm behaviors and plans that we had for each and every single day, and they were the impetus for success. Now, here's what I want to offer to you today. If you're watching this on the day that this podcast is launched at 12 noon Eastern Time in the United States, it's November, I believe, yes, it's November 7th. See, as I'm recording this, it's actually pre-recorded. You're not watching it live, it's a recording. November 7th, the first Friday of the month of November, but now we're in November. We have reached the 1 week moment, and we realize that the end of the year is out there in front of us, less than 2 months away. There's a lot on your plate. There's a lot on my plate, and we're always working on things, plus there are the unexpecteds. But have you sat down and thought long enough, or sat down and brought in people in your life that are significant to you, such as your spouse or your family or your partner, whatever, and have you sat down and talked about, we know we have things to complete for this calendar year. Holidays are coming. We're in the throes of probably the most festive and yet very hectic time of the year. These last 2 months are jam-packed. All kinds of stuff. But have we thought about what we want to accomplish if we see the light of day of January the 1st, 2026? And if we do have an idea of what we want to accomplish, what kind of groundwork do we want to lay down to make that a reality? I simply suggest choose a power word. It doesn't have to be resolve. Resolve just happens to be the word that, as you know, if you've been following this podcast for any period of time, resolve is the word that when my wife and I adopted it, it was relevant then, but the circumstances in 2017 and subsequently to follow in 2018 and, of course, 2019, which literally brought my life into the darkest moment that it's ever been. But because of that power word, there, here, already deeply embedded and to a great degree operating on autopilot in my life because it was hardwired into me. It was that word, those behaviors, along with so many other things that helped me to realize that my time here on earth was not yet over with. Yes, I had to move forward without the most important person that I have ever known in my life and will ever know. But the point was, I had to move forward because there would be not just opportunities for me, but it's important to say this. There are people that were depending upon me. They needed me. Some of them already present, relevant, and very much in my life, and others who would come to be a part of my life going forward. And this is the reason why a power word is such a powerful tool. Now think about that as I share this idea with you here on this first Friday of the month of November 2025. We have a handful of Fridays left in 2025, and we're going to talk about a number of things. In next week's episode, I'm going to talk about the process of what happens when we arrive at a moment where we have been devastated and our life has come crashing down around us, and we're standing there, or maybe we're on our knees, or maybe we're lying flat on our face. But we are literally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, financially devastated. And the only thing that we can come up with is a crazy little phrase, what now? We'll talk about that. Because what now doesn't have to be a question with no answer. It can actually be answered with an entirely different phrase, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I think, for me personally, and in sharing with you, a power word can be something that you can literally hold on to. I was thinking the other day during a struggle that I was having trying to fix a problem. And I remembered, for years we've seen in our mind or heard in speeches or even in sermons or from great quotes, when life has you at the end of the rope, tie a knot and hang on. But under no circumstance, let go. You tie the knot, you hold on, and you begin to find out how you can climb back up that rope. It's one of those, I'm not ready to quit. And Dufresne said it in The Shawshank Redemption. I've said this many times. For sure, the last vestige of hope was gone. But he said, I guess it comes down to get busy living or get busy dying. Excuse me, that's my kitty cat. Hey, Mariella. But the thing about it is, life doesn't have to do things the way you want it to, but you can determine how you want to respond to what life throws at you and puts up in your face and tries to knock you flat on your back with. And trust me, you're going to get knocked flat on your back. As I look at the history of the life that I've lived in these almost 75 and a half years, I have come to understand that I've been at these crossroad moments before. Ever lost a job that you thoroughly, thoroughly loved, and it broke your heart? Ever just have the job pulled out from underneath you? I worked for a company back in the 80s doing a job that I enjoyed immensely. But the company was having financial problems, but they hung on to me because I had a position that was one that was a leadership position. But they could not afford to continue to operate, and they sold the company to someone else. And that someone else, rather than coming in and keeping the staff that they had, simply replaced all of us with their people. And in the stroke of 48 hours, I lost that job. I loved that job. And that's not the first time that's happened. There could have been a marriage in your life. And that marriage meant the world to you, and you put your all in all into it. And then, through circumstances that you did not even realize or had control of, the relationship became estranged and eventually became irreconcilable. What about an illness? A house fire? What about having a wrong done to you that you didn't deserve? and now you're devastated and emotionally or financially or even physically damaged. There are events that take place. What do you grab hold of? And that's what happened to Andy. That's the reason why Andy, who never really quit hoping, as we know from the movie's end, turned and said to Red, I guess you're right about one thing. Get busy living or get busy dying. It comes down to those two decisions. And one of the chapters in my book is entitled Two Paths. You either choose to move forward or you choose to stop and wait to die. If you have a power word, I believe it can be a saving grace in your life, something capable of giving you a framework. Notice I said framework. Have you ever heard of the idea of framing a problem in such a way that you can divorce it from the total of your life and be able to place it in such a way that you can see it in its appropriate context? And that is just one thing. And at this particular moment, it seems like it might be all pervasive in your life. But in reality, if you look at your life as a whole, what's happened to you, what you had happen to you that's been so beautiful and wonderful, the people that surround you, the people that love you, the events that you've had the opportunity to take place in, even maybe your health has been spared from terrible, terrible things, or you've come through some amazing things and you have arose above them and been victorious in life. You can frame that problem and you can drain the color out of it, and you can make it so that it's just a blip on a radar screen or on a vision board of incredible things that have happened to you already and incredible things that you see can happen to you. And you don't want that to be the focus of what's holding you up. I repeat this all the time. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I am not a trained mental health counselor. But I am an individual through the experiences and through the learning mindset that I have. I've come to understand the problems that happen in life are only as big as you allow them to be. And it's really not the problem that matters. It's how you confront, fight back, and power through that problem. And for me, it was a power word. And that power word was resolve. And it is at the core of everything that I do, and it's what I talk about. I appreciate you watching and following with me, and I appreciate those of you that have adopted the resolve mindset. But if you're watching this program and you're not part of the regular listening group and you're new to this podcast and you have been trying resolutions and you've had some success, or maybe you've had no success, or maybe you don't do resolutions at all because, like it was with me, why do them? I never keep them. Maybe what you need, if you want to put some fresh take on how to move forward and look forward to, by the grace of God, the light of day of January the 1st of 2026, and a bright opportunity for an incredible year unlike any you ever had. Never mind all the crazy stuff that's going in this world. You can have an amazing life. You can have an amazing year. It starts with one day, and sometimes it starts with one moment, and that one moment is that one word. What is that word that is going to be the focal point of how you move forward? Thanks so very much for being with me today. When we talk next week, we're going to talk about the devastation principles that can disrupt our lives so much to the point that we're left flat on our face, humbled, broken, damaged, hurt, at a complete and total loss, and all we know how to say is, what now? We'll talk about that in our next episode a week from now, when the episode of Resolve to Live Forward releases on Friday, November the 14th. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I thank you for joining with me. I'll tell you once again, this is Resolve to Live Forward, the podcast. It is streamed across numerous podcast platforms from Buzzsprout. Among those platforms is Spotify and the iTunes Store. And my Gmail is johnmorrowcoaching@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. If you're able to see this and view this on video, because I'm also on YouTube, thank you for watching. Thank you in advance for your feedback. Be kind if you're critical. I'm not perfect and I don't have all the answers, but I believe I have something meaningful for people who are in a place similar to where I was in 2019. And I'm thankful for what has come into my life and for the people that have touched my life and people like you who are touching my life today. Until we get together again at this time next week for this episode, this is John Morrow once again saying to you, as I always say at the close of every podcast episode, please, please, please resolve to live forward. Bye-bye for now.